Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever it may be. Cardinals are in action today with a 1:15 start St. Louis time, trying to salvage at least one win in this three-game series against the Blue Jays. This is the Bernie Show presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Just a reminder, we've changed the name of our little shop here. The new name of our site is STL Sports Central. You can follow us at, or you can go to the site at stlsportscentral.com. or follow us on X at STL Sports Central, CTRL. I do 5 columns a week and 5 videos a week here on our site. Also join the Randy Carrick Show on Friday mornings. You can access all of that stuff, including the podcast version of the Bernie Show videos, just by going to STL Sports Central. You can also catch me frequently on KMOX 104.1 FM or 1120 AM. throughout the week. And I do 1 or 2 podcasts / videos with the fabulous Katie Wu for Cardinal territory each week. Today's topic, the Cardinals position player depth. Not that this is a revelation, but I think the depth is lacking. And I'm sure that just about, well, you never get 100%, but I'm sure many of you would agree with that too. And I'm talking about position player depth. So pitching has nothing to do with this particular video or topic. And partly because the position player depth is so mediocre, it's led to a couple of significant problems. Number one, the bench guys don't play much. And when they do play, they don't produce. And manager Oli Marmol doesn't have confidence in them. And I can understand why. And that leads to number 2. Because the position player depth is so thin in quality, Marmol leans heavily on his starters, really hard on his starters. And we're seeing, I believe, and I think you would agree, we're seeing some fatigue-related trends. And this is a very, very busy time of the year for the Cardinals. These players need breaks. It's just the way it's got to be. But that also means you need to have better depth so the manager will feel comfortable about spotting more days off for them and relying on some of his backup guys. But that's not the case here because of the weakness of the position player depth. Listen, Brendan Donovan has started games, second base, left field, shortstop. He's played 555 innings in the field. He goes hard, he thinks hard, he works hard, he competes hard. And I don't know if the guy ever shuts it down. I'm talking about mentally or physically. He's always working. He's incredibly intense. And that takes a lot of energy. And after a fantastic start, Donnie, in his past 11 games through Tuesday, hit only 190 with a 544 OPS. That's not like him. And he left Tuesday's game early because of pain in his toe, discomfort in his toe, whatever it is. And this is a case of, a couple of things. Number one, the player's not going to take himself out of the lineup, and he's probably going to try to play through pain, even if it's going to make the situation worse. And the second thing is sometimes the manager needs to protect the player from himself. And if a guy's running low on gas and he's playing hurt, and it's something your trainers are working on, well, sounds like a good time to maybe back off a little bit and give him a couple days to freshen up. That's just me. And I'm just looking at the trend, and the trend's not good. And I think the guy, Brendan Donovan, to his credit, plays really, really hard. But sometimes that can work against a player if he doesn't get enough rest. All right. Let's talk about Lars Nootbaar. Last season, because of early injuries, the outfielder started only 38 games in the first 2 months of 2024. But then he missed. He went back on the IL, and he missed the next 5 weeks because of another injury. Now, Nootbaar's been healthy this season, and that's good. But his early season workload has been a lot heavier. I mean, a lot heavier than he is used to. He's already started 56 games this season. And, here we are on June the 11th. He's already started 56 times. And that's after starting only 38 times over the first 3 months of 2024. So this is kind of new territory for him. And that's why Marmol rightfully, belatedly gave Nootbaar a day off Tuesday. He really needed it. His offensive performance has been fading. The numbers are really awful. After a strong opening month, Nootbaar, since the beginning of May, has hit 216. He's got an on-base percentage at 288 in May and June, and his strikeout rate is inflating. See, you can't have that in a leadoff hitter. In his last 20 games, where you could really see the fatigue creeping in, Nootbaar, the last 20 before Tuesday, hit 188 with a 530 OPS, which is awful, and he struck out 31% of his plate appearances. That is an obvious red flashing warning sign, right? Because this is a dude who doesn't strike out much. He came into the season with a career 20% strikeout rate. In a couple of his seasons, it's been less than 20%. So when he's striking out 30% of the time, the circuits are blown and they need to be reset, right? Let's talk about Victor Scott, the center fielder. He's not a rookie, but he's a first-time regular starter in the major leagues at center field. And after a very strong first month, Victor Scott has hit only 204, and he's got just about 30% strikeout rate since the start of May. In his last 13 games through Tuesday night, Scott hit 057, and he struck out 33% of the time. Again, he plays a demanding position. He's never played this much at the demanding position in the major leagues. And pitchers are messing with him. They're spinning him now rather than throwing him fastballs. And he's got a lot going on. So the problem is they don't have a great alternative in center field. And I'm not calling on Victor Scott to be benched, where you don't see him except a couple of times. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying he needs, I think more mentally than anything, he needs a breather from time to time, more breathers than he's been getting. And again, we're in early June, and the schedule is pretty brutal here between now and the All-Star break. We're not even in the dog days of summer yet. Do you see my point? That's what I'm talking about. You got a little bit of prevention now can pay off later, or a little more maintenance now can help you later. Let's talk about shortstop Masyn Winn. This dude plays hard all the time. And he is a guy of immense pride and admire all of his qualities. And he logs a huge number of innings at shortstop, which is a demanding position. Now, if you remember, Masyn Winn is a rookie last year. He faded late in the 2024 season. And while Winn is a plus hitter overall in 2025, his on-base percentage and his power have gone down over the last 3 weeks, resulting in an OPS that has gone below 700 over that time. Oli Marmol doesn't give him days off. He hasn't used Jose Barrero there except for maybe a couple of times. I mean, he's basically the shortstop unless Marmol moves Brendan Donovan over, which he's done a couple of times when Winn was on the DL or the IL. So Masyn Winn is a vital presence to this team. But again, this is a guy that could use a few more breathers along the way, right? Third baseman Nolan Arenado has bounced back in recent days, which is obviously a good sign. We appreciate it. But during a 31-game stretch that extended through the first day of June, Nato batted 190, and he had an anemic slugging percentage of less than 300, 298 to be exact. Listen, his defense is important to this team, a pitching staff where the ball's always in play, or so it seems. But he's also an aging player who competes with high intensity. He has a hard time shutting it off, and he needs more days off. He just does. And if he got a little more time off, maybe there would be the same impact or the same effect that we've seen with Paul Goldschmidt with the Yankees this year. They play him a lot less than he's accustomed to playing, and that's been good for Goldie. Well, Yankee Stadium has been really good for Goldie, but Goldie has benefited from the extra rest in his first year of the Yankees. Don't say it would absolutely work with Arenado, but it's something to think about. With the Cardinals going through a very busy time, they have only one scheduled day off between now and one scheduled day off between June 11th, today, through July the 2nd. If considering all that, Should Marmol be making more of an attempt to give his regulars a break on a more routine basis, or just a more regular basis rather than hardly ever doing it? Well, the easy answer is yes, but the reality, however, is not so simple. And I'm going to explain that in my next segment. But first, some words about DraftKings and their daily pick six game. DraftKings covers just about every sport you can think of. But since we're in the baseball season, and if you think as a Cardinals fan, you know Major League Baseball, you know the Cardinals, then it's time to put your knowledge to use and win big cash prizes through the daily pick six contest. In DraftKings Pick Six, you just focus on player stats. You select anywhere from 2 to 6 players. It doesn't matter who their real major league team is. 2 to 6 players. You choose whether that individual player or pitcher will go higher or lower on a specific stat line set for him in his next game by DraftKings. Now, I'm using a hypothetical example. Some of you will see this video after the game has already started, so I don't mean this literally, but just to take an example. Do you think Matthew Liberatore will notch 5 strikeouts in Wednesday's start against the Blue Jays? The DraftKings line on that is Libby with a strikeout line of 4.5 strikeouts. So here's what your decision would be. You have to decide whether he'll finish higher or lower than the 4.5 line, right? And you make your play accordingly. Yeah, pick six is that simple. There's all kinds of statistical categories to choose from. It's a lot of fun, really. And so here's an invitation to get in the game and take your best shot at winning the cash, man. Pick six available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. You'll enjoy tracking your players as you select them and while they are doing their thing. But the best thing and the most entertaining part is winning at DraftKings, and you can do that at DraftKings. It's easy to get started. You download that DraftKings app, which is excellent. It's so easy to use, so easy to navigate. Open an account, then choose a sport, pick your players, and off you go. New players at DraftKings get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly with just a $5 entry. So download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. I think we can pretty much agree that the busiest Cardinals position players need more rest than they've been getting. There is a balance. You don't have to go all in all the time with the same guys or bury guys on the bench. I'm not saying that. Just a little more rest than they've been getting because it'll benefit them. We're seeing fatigue all over the place with these position players. But before we just blame everything on Marmol, which is a St. Louis tradition, we should look at his backup options. Jose Barrero, oh my goodness. He has started only 2 games since May the 6th. It is now, I'm just laughing. I'm sorry. He has started 2 games since May the 6th. It is now June the 11th. And both of the starts came in center field where he is not good at all defensively. And while Barrero can be used at multiple infield positions, which is helpful, in theory, he won't provide much, if any, offense there. Listen, he's batting 150 this season, and Barrero is a 184 career hitter in 155 big league games. Now, the athletic Barrero looks good in uniform, not so good in the box score. And yeah, his right-handed bat would be a plus if his right-handed bat did anything. Because the Cardinals have all those left-handed hitters. They could use a right-handed bat. And some of us, in terms of a backup, some of us spent the winter, and I know a lot of you did too. I know I did. When people say, what do you think the Cardinals need? Within reason. Because, I kind of figured that they wouldn't be, trying to sign Corbin Burns. Probably weren't going to be in the Juan Soto sweepstakes, right? They were cutting payroll and all that. But still, the one thing I kept hitting on, I said, listen, man, they need a right-handed hitting outfielder, someone that they can offset the top-heavy left-handed hitting nature of the offense that they have, the outfield that they have. But I didn't think that when they came up with a right-handed hitter, it would be Jose Barrero. Number 2 catcher, Yoel Pozo, we like him, but he has started only 3 times since May 19th, and he's gone 1 for 12 at the plate over that time. When right fielder Jordan Walker went to the IL with a sore wrist, the best the Cardinals could do for a minor league call-up was promoting Ryan Vilade, who has 1 hit and 13 at-bats during Walker's time on the IL. And Vilade has a career 141 batting average in the major leagues. Now, Nolan Gorman has kind of been a bench guy, but he shouldn't have been a bench guy, not to the extent that he was. I've criticized Marmol for limiting Gorman's playing time to the point where I think it got kind of absurd. And Gorman's upturn on offense, which I've been predicting because there's improved plate discipline, and it looks like it's happening, that upturn on offense warrants more at-bats on a regular basis. I'm not saying he should be there all the time, but at least enough times where we see him. We see him quite a bit, right? Or we see him enough to say, oh, that's right, he's still on the team. Hey, before starting 3 games in recent days against the Dodgers and Blue Jays, Gorman had started only 6 games at second base in the previous month. And I know he's had some DH swings, but we're talking about position players. We're talking about guys you use, not so much at DH, but because when you play the field, the demands obviously are more demanding. I just used the same word. The demands are more strenuous if you're in the field rather than being a DH. And I do know that the Cardinals lineup is a puzzle and a challenge to configure and kind of a big headache. But I do know this, Nolan Gorman in a runway season, as I said in yesterday's Bernie show, he can't be glued to the bench. Thank you, Nolan Gorman, for hitting a 3-run home run last night because, I don't know, this is what I was hoping to see. All right, I wouldn't categorize Alec Burleson as a backup or a reserve because he has started a lot more regularly in recent weeks, and that's good for the Cardinals offense. But then again, because they don't have enough right-handed depth in the outfield, he's not a platoon player per se, but it's kind of like that. Used mostly against right-handers. See, they're missing that element of a right-handed hitting outfielder that they can plug in the corners or even at center. So Burley's been good for the Cardinals offense because a lot of guys are sagging. He has not been. Here's a stat for you. When they have started games for the Cardinals this season, Barrero and Vilade are a combined 3 for 24 with 9 strikeouts. Where's Brandon Crawford? I mean, this is like Brandon Crawford times 2, right? Pozo's batted .280 as a starter this season. And again, I do appreciate him, but there has been little flaws of started surface in his defense. But specifically in his last 3 starts, he's gone 1 for 9. And Marmol is committed to the defense provided by starting catcher Pedro Pages. And it is essential to the pitching staff, which doesn't strike out a lot of players, a lot of hitters. So you need to have a really good defense and a guy behind the plate who's excellent at pitch calling to where maybe you get more soft contact, you get a lower batting average, all that stuff. Marmol is committed to Ivan Herrera as the designated hitter, which he should be. Occasionally, yeah, put him behind the plate. But that bat has got to be in the lineup every day, even if it means the best place to put him is DH. You don't worry about the long-term future in the middle of all this, right? Cardinals got so many damn catchers down below that let me put it to you this way. All right. As much as I love Ivan Herrera, the Cardinals have so many options on the way. Ivan Herrera ain't going to be the starting catcher. He's just not that good defensively. He has got a bat, man. And don't worry about anything else except that. So anyway, what is Marmol supposed to do here? What are his options? And some of this is his fault because even if you don't, the bench ain't very good, you got to make at least a little more use of it. And he's had some opportunity to use some guys that he has. And anyway, what's he supposed to do here? As I mentioned earlier, he clearly lacks confidence in his backups, and that's where sort of the problem begins. But is this a Marmol problem or a front office problem or maybe a little bit of both? Well, I'm going to tell you about that in my final segment number 3 of the Bernie Show. But before I get to it, I'm just going to flat out say right now, I recommend Blue Chew to the guys out there. If you are slumping, Blue Chew can help you get cranked up. Blue Chew provides the help you need so you can have a pleasurable and fulfilling life with your significant other. And you know what? That's not only good for you, that is great for both of you. That's important. And this applies to men of all ages, especially those who are in my age range, over 60. This issue impacts a lot of men, and I know all about that. And that's why I appreciate Blue Chew, because I know what it's done for me, and I want you to discover it too. This is no different than seeking help for some other issue you're having in terms of your physical well-being. There's no stigma here. Relax. Choose the original brand offering of Chew. I'm sorry, let me do that again. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced intimacy. Think of Blue Chew this way. We like to say, the New York Mets broadcaster said it. Chew it and do it. You will get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away, and it's easy to get going. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you're going to receive your prescription within days. It's all done online. No doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no crowded pharmacies. Just order online and you're good to go. We got a special deal for our listeners and viewers. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code Bernie. That's me. You just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Bernie. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety info. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the Bernie Show. All right, we're back for segment number 3. One reason for a weak position player bench this season can be attributed, this one reason, to a payroll cut of close to $40 million from last year going into 2025. There are other depth pieces out there that they could have added to this bench. That, a right-handed hitting outfielder would have been great. Maybe somebody can play a little center field. That would be great. Gives you a right-handed bat. But President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak used his one major league free agent signing on reliever Phil Maton, 1-year deal for $2 million. Oh, that was a good move. My point is, you could have added another depth piece and still gotten it done without spending much money. Why did they? See, again, I live in the real world. I knew they were not going to go in big in free agency this past winter. But if you can pick up Maton at a bargain rate, you had a chance to do that, maybe to give your outfield a little more balance. And, you wouldn't have had to spend a ton of money to do that. Then again, the Cardinals were not exactly aggressive in this area before last season, but there is a difference. They signed Brandon Crawford, and that was a waste of time and money and space. With all due respect to him, because he's been a great pro, but he was done. Now, when they signed Matt Carpenter, there were a lot of people feigning and, doing the fake outrage thing on X. You got to show that you're mad all the time, So the Carpenter signing was criticized, but actually he did fortify the bench, and yeah, it's a fact. Crawford had no value. Carpenter did a nice job in the role that he was given. You may not think so. Because you might have to admit you may be wrong at the time. Carpenter had a 747 OPS after the All-Star break. I tell you what, that's pretty damn good for a bench guy. And speaking of a bench guy, he was really good when he was subbed into a game, coming off the bench when he didn't start, but he was subbed in. In those situations, he hit 286 and he had a 571 slugging percentage once he entered the game. That's really outstanding. So I'm not saying they should have brought him back, but what I'm saying is the Cardinals definitely are missing that Carpenter-like boost from the bench, except it wouldn't be a left-handed hitter. It would be a right-handed hitter this time instead. With the overcrowding at first base and DH, Marmol didn't make much use of the big man, Luke and Baker, while Big Luke was here earlier this season. And I got to look back on this. because in real time, sometimes you don't recognize things the way you should. I'm guilty of that sometimes. We all tend to live in the moment. But looking back on this, the one thing about Baker that impressed me, he wasn't going to play a lot of first base. He would get some DH time in. He was going to be a role guy. He was going to be a guy that could pinch hit. He was going to be a guy that you look at that other team's bullpen and you see all these lefties. So you would you could insert him into the game with the games well in progress. Not all guys know how to be a good bench player, right? Like a lot of guys, especially younger guys, they need a lot of at-bats, Baker, guys like Baker are not easy to find because he was always ready to hit when called on. He didn't have to play every day to have a capable bat when he was used in a limited role, when he was pinch hit, when it was a matchup situation. When he was used as a sub in during a game earlier this year, he was 3 for 9 with 2 doubles, drew some walks. And against left-handed pitchers this year, he hit 296 and he had an 849 OPS. I mean, isn't there a need for a right-handed hitter with some power who can produce and do it without needing all these at-bats to when he goes into a game is in a very specific role, he can produce in that role? Isn't there a need also for a right-handed hitting bench guy who can hammer lefty pitchers? It's not easy to find those effective specialists, but Baker seems to be a specialist. Why? Over the last 2 seasons in 56 plate appearances against lefty pitchers, he's got a 289 average and a 441 a 441 on base percentage because he draws a lot of walks. Lefty pitchers want to avoid him. So let me reset. 289 batting average, 441 on base percentage, and a 533 slugging percentage. And again, I'm going to repeat it. I'm being redundant. My apologies. Baker doesn't have to start a game to have value and to produce. He's one of those guys that can come off the bench and just fill that void, fill that role, and get a job done. Do the Cardinals have that this year? Unless one of their regulars is coming off the bench, or like maybe Burleson starts on the bench, but then when the right-handed relievers come in or whatever, he comes off. I'm talking about a more specific role. Baker is able to handle that specific role, which can be a difficult role. Now, infielder Thomas Saggese would be an option. He did a wonderful job early this season for the Cardinals when Masyn Winn was out. I think it was Winn was out, or Gorman was out. It doesn't matter. I think when Winn went down, he was called up. Saggese hit 341 with a 516 slug. But don't we know the Cardinals have a lot of middle infielders, and Saggese probably wouldn't get enough playing time up here because if Nolan Gorman wasn't getting enough playing time, Thomas Saggese wouldn't either. See, Thomas Saggese and some of these other guys, they're basically victims of faulty roster construction and the never-ending positional logjams that John Mozeliak has been known for in recent years. I'm just spitballing here because I don't think it's going to happen. But what if Saggese could slowly develop to be worked into one of those busy bench roles, right? Listen, he's a right-handed bat that can hit left-handed pitching really well. So there's value there. And I know what the Cardinals have said and will say, well, with all the guys we have in the same area, he really wouldn't get much chance to play here. And we can't have him sitting on the bench. He needs to take at bats in the minors. Okay, I get it. In theory, I get it. But is there a way for Marmol to commit to giving Saggese enough playing time to make it work for a young developing hitter? Is there a way? There's probably a way, but maybe not to the extent that the Cardinals would like in terms of Saggese's development. See, this would require more days off for Brendan Donovan and more time in left field for Brendan Donovan, and Oli Marmol really covets Donovan's defense at second base. Down on the farm, the most pragmatic outfield option would be Michael Ciani. There's some redundancy there. That's the problem because Ciani and Victor Scott got some things in common. They both bat left-handed. They both play really good outfield defense. They both run well, and they're both successful at stealing bases. But again, both guys hit from the left side, and with Victor Scott not doing much hitting these days, I think he'll bounce back, especially if he gets more breathers. it's kind of like you bring Siani up, and yeah, he could be a big time defensive replacement anywhere in the outfield, late innings, and he could steal bases for you. And he's a small ball guy. He would have a role here. Let me put it to you this way: I would take him over Vlade anytime, because there's a lot of different skills in Siani's toolkit, right? The one that's not there is hitting for a high average and hitting for power, but he can do a lot of other things. See, this is the frustration. The Cardinals roster in recent years, their rosters in recent years have been like the proverbial island of misfit toys. And there always seems to be a glut of position players who basically do the same thing. One of my sincere hopes for Chaim Bloom, when he becomes the president of baseball operations, which will happen later this season, but basically moves aren't going to be made until you get to the offseason. I am hopeful that Bloom will give more attention to providing the Cardinals with a more well-rounded mix of position players. And I know this, when he was in a position of authority in Tampa Bay, this fella's always had a good bench. And they did it without spending a lot of money. I think Bloom he's one of these guys that has an eye for role players and understands the value of good role players, even though they're not stars per se. Maybe Chaim Bloom can help Oli Marmol have a much better mix of position players in 2025. What's next year? 2026. All right. I think, my caffeine, which I woke up at 5 this morning. I think my caffeine, which kicked in nicely, I think it's kind of fading. That's why I'm getting a little mealy mouth here at the end. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. And we appreciate DraftKings for presenting the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central.